Good morning. Welcome to Undisputed. I'm Jenny Taft with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. Hope you guys had a great weekend. You both looking good. How are we doing?
I'm doing great, Jenny. Had a great weekend. Skip, how about you? You got a good weekend?
I had a good weekend, but I'm not sure this qualifies as a good morning. But good morning to you.
Good morning to you, bro.
All right, guys, let's get to the latest news surrounding the NBA. And Skip, you set it up perfectly. We do have a lot to get to today on the show. And the latest is Kyrie Irving is reportedly against the NBA season resuming in Orlando. In a conference call, Kyrie said that, quote, something smells a bit fishy and that he didn't think continuing the season in the current social climate was a good idea. Rockets guard Austin Rivers disagreed, posting on social media, I love Kyrie's passion towards helping this movement. I'm with it, but in the right way and not at the cost of the whole NBA and players' careers. We can do both. We can play and we can help change the way Black lives are lived. Shannon, which side of this issue are you on? Should they play or not play?
Well, Skip, the way I look at it, you know, one of my favorite sayings is two things can be true.
Yep.
Kyrie's entitled to feel the way he feels. Now, it would be very interesting to see, Skip, if Kyrie was healthy. Kevin Durant, although he's not in part of this equation, if he was healthy, they're the one or the two seeds.
Yep.
Will Kyrie still feel the exact same way?
Great question.
Being the seventh seed, being injured, okay, I get it. But for me, Skip, I want Kyrie to hopefully understand, and I think people are in his ear, and I think he does understand this. You're talking about problems that have an accumulation of building up over 400 years. And although changes is going to come, I believe, what drastic change would Kyrie Irving like to see immediately that would say, okay, we feel good about resuming the season? I do agree with Austin Rivers. I believe they can play the game of basketball and still fight social injustice, what we're seeing now. Skip, and I'm very optimistic because I haven't seen in the movie, and you was around. I wasn't born in the '60s, but you remember. I don't think we've seen anything like this. Not from accumulation of leagues. Yeah, we had the summit in '67 in Cleveland where guys stood up for Muhammad Ali, the Jim Browns, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who went by his government name back then. And you had a lot of other guys, Bobby Mitchell, Willie Davis, and some guys, Skip, you know. But we've never seen anything like this.
Nope.
Where we've had it, basically, the league have had to come out and says, we were wrong in the beginning for not listening to you and allowing you to exert your First Amendment constitutional right. We got the NBA, who's been one of the forward-thinking leagues and says, okay, player, this is the way you feel. Okay, what can we do to assist you? But to put the entire league on hiatus, because I believe, Skip, no matter how long you wait, there are going to be issues that are going to need to be dealt with.
Yep.
They say sports are a microcosm of society. If that's the case, isn't society quite divided right now, Skip? So one would assume that if sports are a microcosm of that, sports league would be divided on how and when we shall return.
Yep.
Now, we thought, Skip, March, it went on hiatus, I think, in the middle of March 13th, 14th, something like that. And then we're going to come back July 30th. And we're like, okay. But then something happened on the way to work, Skip. The George Floyd incident happened Memorial Day. And that threw a monkey wrench in a lot of different things. But Skip, I love, and I agree with Austin Rivers, I love Kyrie's passion. And he seems to, whatever you think about him, he's quirky and, you know, he rubbed people the wrong way. He's not the best teammate. But he put a lot of thought in this. I do believe Kyrie thought long and hard about this. But I don't necessarily believe the league should go on hiatus, because I believe LeBron James has been fighting. There are some guys that's in the league that's been fighting for injustices and still playing at a very high level.
Yep.
So I believe they can do that, Skip. I believe that guys can, once they get on the court, go play, and then once they get off the court, deal with issues that need to be dealt with. And I get Kyrie's concerned, like, man, once we start playing, people are going to forget all about the movement. They're not going to be covering it. No one's going to be talking about it. They're going to talk NBA, and it's going to be just like some of the other movements. Although this one has lasted longer, it's going to be swept up under the rug. But I don't believe the players, I don't believe America will allow that to happen. I do believe two things can be true. I believe these guys can play. I believe these guys can play and still fight for social injustice. But Kyrie's entitled, and other guys are entitled to feel the way they feel. But the question is the same thing. I had a conversation with someone here. I don't want it to be a situation, Skip, where when we watch football, we look at the guys that stand and then the guys that didn't stand. The guys that are standing, we're like, do they not care about this? Just like I don't want people now to say, well, they don't really care about basketball because it's going to put teammates at some point in time, Skip.
You will.
Like, it's going to put teammates against teammates.
Yep.
And what are we going to do, bro? I understand fighting for social injustice, but we play basketball, and I believe two things can be true. So the commissioner got something on his hands right now that I don't believe he envisioned.
Nope.
Skip, when they called the board of the governors and everybody sat down and they ratified this thing, I don't think they thought this thing was going to get like this.
So, Mr. Sharp, I want to be with you on this. I want to lean toward they should play and they should protest and use the platform they have not had all along, where they've been out of circulation here for a while, to benefit all the issues at hand. Their voices could be heard more loudly and more often on the platform of playing.
Correct.
So that's why I wanted to go. But I will be the first to admit to you, maybe I should be disqualified from this. I'll be the first to admit I have very mixed emotions. I think actually you and I both have mixed emotions on this because in the end, our very livelihood, maybe even our very jobs, depend on the NBA playing and in turn the NFL playing.
Correct.
And when I first heard that Kyrie was balking on Friday night, my first reaction was what you just said. Oh, come on, Kyrie. You weren't going to play anyway. You're coming off surgery. Your man, Kevin Durant, is coming off surgery, so it's easy for you to say right now. I saw last night that Kendrick Perkins tweeted that Kyrie was causing unnecessary drama. And on Friday night, that's what I thought at first glance. And then, Mr. Sharp, the weekend happened. And real life happened. And the light I was seeing at the end of the tunnel through all that we've been talking about went dark again for several reasons. Ironically, the least of which was COVID.
Right.
We've had new outbreaks now in 18 states, so we're having a resurgence here.
Which is not surprising.
Well, we've had mayors and governors now step up and say, I was wrong, we reopened too early. Well, obviously, this is going to give all those NBA players a little new cause to pause and rethink this and second guess and say, gee, are we really ready in about a month to go to Orlando to our quote unquote bubble? Is it going to be that safe? Well, we're kind of taking it day to day, so we don't know. Now to the far more devastating news. And this is difficult for me to talk about, so bear with me.
Go ahead.
I started reading on Friday that not one, but two black men were found hanging from trees in communities not far from where we're sitting right now.
Correct.
Palmdale is about 60 miles north of Los Angeles, California, a blue state. And a black man was found hanging from a tree named Robert Fuller. And then in Victorville, which is about 60 miles to the east of Palmdale, not that far from LA, another black man named Malcolm Harsh was found hanging from a tree. Local authorities ruled both suicides right out of the box, but the two families, obviously devastated, are naturally and obviously extremely suspicious, as am I, of what is going on in these two communities with this. Were they suicides, in fact? I mean, it's possible these men were despondent about COVID or about Black Lives Matter and where what's not happening with Black Lives Matter, and maybe they did hang themselves. Now my mind wanders and my imagination runs wild, and I don't know if it's hate groups trying to start a hate war. But this, Shannon, is a flashback to me to the 1950s in Mississippi. Is that where we're heading again? Seriously. And then, as you well know, in the city in which you still own a home, on Friday night, it happened again.
It did.
Another black man got gunned down and killed by a white cop in a completely avoidable situation to me. From my, I watched the video. I read carefully about what happened. This man Rayshawn Brooks, fell asleep at the wheel of his car in the drive-thru of a Wendy's. So one white cop is called, and he treats him very well, and they go through everything, go through a little field sobriety, and he's found that he failed. Another white cop shows up, and as they try to handcuff him, a scuffle ensues, and Mr. Brooks manages to secure the taser from the second white cop and takes off running with it, and turns and shoots, if we could see the video just at least one time, shoots the taser, the stun gun at the officer and misses, and the officer's shooting his stun gun at Rayshawn Brooks and misses. And then, as we know now, the officer reaches for his handgun, pulls it, shoots 3 times, hits Rayshawn Brooks twice in the back. Completely out of bounds, completely uncalled for. I'm getting chills again talking about it. How could this happen now? After all we've been through in that city, which has such a strong, vibrant black culture and such a strong black mayor.
It's the birthplace of civil rights.
It's the birthplace of civil rights. And it happened on Friday night. What? And the officer can be heard on the tape saying, "I got him." You got him? And again, the police chief has already resigned, but wouldn't your department heads all be lecturing all the cops, black and white? At this time, we have to be ultra careful and cautious. We have to go to the nth degree to try not to use lethal force. That didn't require lethal force.
Especially, Skip, because the situation, look, you got the guy's information. You know who he is.